Whispers of a Summer Night. Some nights are anything but ordinary. The breeze feels softer against your skin, the moon shines a little brighter, and for a fleeting moment everything seems possible. As Elian walked through the narrow streets of the summer town, he heard distant laughter. A group of young people sat on the old wooden pier by the shore, and among them a familiar silhouette. Rafael, the one he had spent every summer with years ago, only to vanish from his life without a trace. But now, under the moonlight, Rafael sat with his knees pulled up, smiling softly as he spoke. A shiver ran through Elian. That night, he realized, he had never truly forgotten Rafael. Taking a deep breath, he kept walking. When Rafael noticed him, his smile changed, gentler, carrying a meaning from long ago. "Still taking midnight walks after all these years?" Rafael asked. Elian smiled. "Seems like you do, too." Some people never fade. Some summer nights are unforgettable, and some whispers echo in the deepest corners of the heart. Rafael slid toward the edge of the wooden pier, patting the empty space beside him. Elian hesitated, but curiosity pulled him forward. As he sat down, the only sounds left were the gentle lapping of the waves and distant music drifting through the night. Rafael turned a small pebble between his fingers. "You didn't expect to see me here, did you?" Elian shook his head. "No." "Are you glad, or are you wishing you'd picked another pier?" Elian let out a small laugh. "I haven't decided yet." Raphael chuckled too, but his gaze lingered on Elian's a moment longer than necessary. Years had passed, yet the silence between them remained unchanged. There were still things trapped between their words, unspoken, yet somehow heard. Raphael flicked the pebble into the sea, watching the ripples spread across the surface. "Coming back here feels strange," he murmured, his voice blending with the wind. "Like the roads I've walked my whole life suddenly don't recognize me." Elian's eyes stayed on the water. "Maybe it's because you've changed." Raphael tilted his head slightly, studying him. "What about you? Are you still the same?" Elian exhaled. "I don't know. I used to feel like I belonged here, but now I'm back, and it's like I don't belong anywhere." Raphael smiled as if he understood that feeling better than anyone. He pressed his palms against the wooden planks, leaning back slightly. "Then maybe we're both lost." Elian raised an eyebrow. "And what do we do now?" Raphael was quiet for a moment before his gaze drifted back to the water. "I think," he said slowly, "when two lost people get lost together, maybe they end up somewhere." Elian turned to him, watching the way the summer breeze played with Raphael's hair. And maybe, just maybe, he was right. Maybe some paths could only be found by walking them together. Elian, Raphael's words lingering in his mind, traced his fingers along the wooden surface beneath him. Silence settled between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. The warm, yet slightly breezy air of the summer night felt even more intense in Raphael's presence. Raphael turned toward Elian slightly, his eyes scanning his face as if searching for something. "You know," he said softly, "sometimes you don't need to belong somewhere and feel like you do. Sometimes just being in the right place with the right person is enough." Elian paused for a moment, holding his breath. There was truth in what Raphael said. Perhaps the emptiness he had felt wasn't because he was in the wrong place, but because he had been with the wrong people. But now, sitting next to Raphael, that emptiness felt a little less. Elian nodded lightly. "Maybe you're right." Raphael smiled, pulling his knees closer to himself and tilting his head back toward the sky. "Then tonight, let's just be here, without thinking about the past or the future." Elian noticed a strand of hair falling across Raphael's cheek. He thought about reaching up to fix it, but stopped. The distance between them was small, yet that little gap felt heavier than anything else. Finally, Raphael turned his head toward him. "Can you do that?" he asked. Elian locked eyes with him. "I'll try." And in that moment it felt like time slowed down just a little. Raphael smiled faintly upon hearing Elian's response. His eyes were shining in the soft darkness of the night. The space between them was almost non-existent now, but still, everything felt like it was worth waiting for. Elian tried to suppress the familiar fear rising inside him. He knew that overthinking could ruin every beautiful moment. Tonight, he just wanted to feel. Raphael lightly placed the tips of his fingers next to Elian's hand, not touching, but letting his presence be felt. Sometimes, he said in a low voice, just one moment can change everything. Elian looked at him, his eyes questioning, but Rafael didn't answer. He didn't need to. Despite his hesitation, Elian brushed his fingers against Rafael's. It was a small, almost imperceptible gesture, but it was something that stirred a storm inside him. And in that moment, the shadows of the past disappeared, the future faded away. Only this moment remained, only Rafael and Elian, only the whispers of a summer night. Some moments are unplanned, but they leave the deepest marks. What about you? Have you ever wanted to trust only your feelings and get lost in a moment? If you had, would you touch like Elian or wait like Rafael? Write it in the comments, because the most beautiful stories become real when we share them. If this story moved you, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Follow us for more emotional and unforgettable stories.